Well, I'm Cheryl Tanner. I'm one of the wildlife technicians on the Gauley district of the Monongahela National Forest. And I'm going to tell you about some of the pollinator work that we've done on the district so far. But since we have a bit of a mixed audience, I believe, I just wanted to go over quickly some of the reasons for the decline in pollinators. One of the biggest is habitat loss, conversion, degradation, and fragmentation. And another biggie is pesticide use, both industrial and residential. And I always like to include these maps because I'm a visual person and this makes such a big impact. This is a map from the Xerces Society of the use of imidacloprid, which is a heavily used agricultural pesticide. This is the use in 1994, 1999, 2004, and 2010. That's obviously a major increase in the use of pesticide. Well, one particular pesticide. Other reasons include parasites, non-native diseases, competition, and climate change. And some of the things that we're doing to help are the removal of non-native invasive plants, which compete with our native wildflowers and forbs, public education, the avoidance of milkweed when we mow, the creation of cutback borders or feathered edges along our roads. That increases the sunlight, which increases forb growth. Native seed collection, the establishment of pollinator gardens, and the establishment of native wildflowers in our forest openings, as well as the inclusion of native wildflower seeds in our reclamation mixes. This is just a picture of some of the seeds that I harvest. This is some common milkweed, columbine, bergamot, and lupine. I will collect these either on the forest or on my own property, but they're harvested locally, dried and stored either in my refrigerator or freezer or sometimes in the shed, because a lot of these native wildflower seeds require cold stratification in order to germinate. And we also purchase seed, which often requires grant money. You can purchase mixes from these companies, meadow mixes that include grasses, not just the wildflowers. And those are relatively, they're affordable, but I've usually been doing custom just wildflower mixes. So straight wildflower seed, and that's not cheap. But these companies, Roundstone Native Seed and Ernst Conservation Seeds, they're wonderful companies, very knowledgeable, and they specialize in native wildflowers. And Wood Thrush Natives is out of Floyd, Virginia. Virginia. And they specialize in native wildflowers of the Appalachians, but they grow them. They're not seed, they're actual plants, very, very healthy. We've used them quite a bit too. And when we have the help to do it, which is usually our Youth Conservation Corps, which we have not had the last 2 years, but when we have the help, the hands to do this, I will grow, germinate plants, and we'll go plant them in the forest. And this is just a little 10 by 10 greenhouse here at my house, and that's how I grow them. I've done a lot of experimentation through the years and have a pretty good process. Different species germinate at different rates. I have differing success, but it's been pretty successful. These are some of the plants from wood thrush natives at the bottom, and one of our YCC crews planting them up at Summit Lake. Now, site preparation is really important, and there are different ways to prepare your site. One big one is herbicide. Folks will spray the area to get rid of the vegetation that's already there, so it won't compete with the native seeds. Another way is to burn, if you've got the capability to do that. You can use a seed drill, which actually just occurred on my property. I have a participating in a program through NRCS to seed my land in native wildflowers. And this seed drill was brought down by the Fish and Wildlife Service, a really good partnership. And he drilled the seeds into the soil, because they say not to till the soil if you can help it. You have to have good seed to soil contact, but if you till and you have non-native invasive seeds in your seed bed, you'll stir those up and they will grow and compete with your native seeds. So they say to not till if you can help it. Another good way, if you have the time and it's on a small scale, is solarization, which is basically putting down a piece of plastic and sealing the edges so the air doesn't escape. And what happens is the sun cooks everything under that plastic. So you start with a sterile seed bed, or a sterile ground to plant. It kills everything under it. Some of the gardens that we have put in, this one is up at Summit Lake, the one that the YCC kids helped with. This strip, as you can see, it was tilled. We usually don't have much option. We're hoping to maybe get the seed drill in the future. But we till because time isn't on our side. This is almost always done with grant money. The seed is purchased through grant money, and grants have deadlines for purchasing and also project completion. And we have to go through the NEPA process, especially for herbicide, and that takes time. So time's usually not on our side. So, we thought, let's just, try the tilling and see what happens. And we planted the established flowers from wood thrush natives, and also seeded on top of that, because I wanted a strip of thick wildflowers, not a meadow, but concentrated wildflowers, like a garden. So I wanted it to be thick in wildflowers. And I was pretty nervous about this one. This was one of the first ones we had done. And the plants didn't look great, as you can probably tell. They'd been beaten by the wind in the back of the truck. They wilted as they were waiting to be planted. And so I was pretty nervous. But the following year, this is what it looked like. So I was happy with it. And this was just last week. So it's doing really well. This is another one at Summit Lake, just around the corner. It's more shaded, but this one's probably even better than the first one. So we're happy with the success. These are the only raised beds that we've done so far. A couple at Camp Caesar and a couple along the Tri-River Rail Trail. And these were put in by the National Youth Conservation Corps, 2 different groups of them. And these kids came from all over the country. And although it took a lot of logistics, to make it happen, this was a fantastic thing. These kids were they were knowledgeable, they were great workers, they had fun, they learned a lot, they did great work. They got something from it, the pollinators got something from it, and the Forest Service got something from it. It was just a great, great thing. And these pollinator beds, I don't have current photos, but I am told that they're doing well by the folks who have seen them. About 5 years ago, we had a new kiosk put in at our office, and we took some of our grant money and put a little pollinator garden around it with some interpretive signs. And I went back the following year. This one was kind of hurried. It was pouring the rain. We just had anybody who was around to help us get those plants in the ground. And there were some gaps. So I went back and planted some butterfly milkweed the following year, but it's doing really well. Bishop Knob Campground has a couple gardens up there. Again, you can see that we tilled, and we seeded it thick. Again, I wanted concentrated wildflower patches is what I was going for, and there was grass already there, so I knew there'd be competition. So we tilled it and seeded it, and I came back later in the year hoping to find little sprouts that, of wildflowers, and instead I found a solid mat of Japanese stiltgrass. So I was very deflated about that one, and I thought, well, that's a big failure right there. So I put that one out of my mind, and the next year, I was driving by on some kind of tour and just happened to pass by and notice a forest of wildflowers. These wildflowers had choked out the Japanese stiltgrass, which you probably know is a very invasive non-native. But this is mostly wild bergamot, coneflowers, asters, some sunflowers, tall flowers. And it was just a happy accident that we actually, in this small area, controlled Japanese stiltgrass with native wildflowers. So we were really happy about that. That was a happy accident. And it still looks like that, by the way. The Cranberry Mountain Nature Center put in some of the first pollinator gardens, and I didn't have much to do with these except for helping pick out the species to plant. If any of you have been to the Nature Center, you probably know Rosanna Springston. She was instrumental in these beds. These are her babies. This shot was initial planting, and some shots from later on. And these gardens do, they take some weeding. She said the asters tend to take over. And she also planted and seeded in the little islands in the parking lot. And we will plant patches or strips in our wildlife openings. We can't plant the entire thing because of cost and time. But in our openings, we will again till due to time. And then seed to soil contact is very important for germination. So we compact the soil the best we can, either by hand with a roller or with the tiller, and then disperse the seed, often by hand. They're small areas, and then hand roll that to mash the seed down into the soil. And this is just a shot of some of the little seedlings. Always love to see that. And these are, this is a reclaimed log landing and a reclaimed skid trail up in the Red Oak Fire Tower area, if you're familiar with our district. And we're really proud of these. In the past, they would just see these old landings and roads with, I think maybe a few species of grass, but it was all grasses. And their goal is quick erosion control. So grasses that, you know, grow fast and grow long roots. And, you know, it had differing levels of success. And when, you know, all this pollinator work started taking off, we wanted to get some wildflowers added into that mix, just to get them established on the site, and then hopefully they would spread. So in these mixes, there were a few species of native wildflowers added to it, and they hydroseeded. And the timber sale administrator let me know as soon as that was done, so that I could then immediately go and add seed to that mix. The hydroseed medium holds in moisture to help the seeds keep them moist so they germinate. So I took advantage of that and added a lot more seed, and this is what happened. And we're thrilled. We're thrilled in wildlife. The timber folks are happy. The ecology folks are happy. The public is happy. These areas were accessible for a while, and we actually had members of the public call our office and, you know, tell us, you know, how happy they were that, you know, what we were doing and how nice it looked. So it's, I mean, it's a win-win for the pollinators and for us, because most native wildflowers have deep roots. So they're also good for erosion control. So it's a win all the way around, and we're trying to we're making this our, you know, the way we do things now. We're working on which species and how many, I think, in the background, but this is something that we're going to continue to do, and that we're all happy about. And I welcome any questions.